That's where I might have some issues if I ever get a little cocky in the wrong part of the province, not in Montreal. Other parts of the province, I would be very French. Very French.
That's interesting. Now that's a whole set of issues that I just don't have to. I mean, in San Diego, when I live in San Diego, we're so close to the border that, professionals usually did know Spanish and English because, the border's right fucking there. And San Diego is a super hotbed for, immigration and people constantly going over the border, for work and shit. So, it makes sense. It makes sense for these international hubs that, the more professional you have to be, but I can see how that can be a language thing. But I didn't really see it in San Diego. But like, if you're a cop and you're dealing with someone who only speaks Spanish and you could only speak English, then you can obviously see the problems there. But
Yo,
and it's
bro.
not anybody's
Okay,
fault.
so 84% of cops in Montreal don't live in the neighborhood they police.
Yeah, that sounds about right here too, right?
So now you can see how maybe defunding the police efforts and putting even the same money into a local security force curated by that neighborhood.
I'm so for that. I'm so for it.
But
I'm
that's,
so for
just to be
fucking
clear, what
dismantling that
everybody
whole
that
fucking
is not
shit.
the main radicals is saying when they say defund the
I
police
know.
is that. And so
I
when we
know.
go like, that's why it's like, if that's why the conversation's got to get real specific, and
Hmm.
that's how we avoid getting clipped on shit.
Yeah, and you're right. Like if I would have went into it more like, like here's what I understand. Here's what. How can we reach a solution and shit? I get this. And I am so for dismantling what the police department is now, because you're right, it's full of corruption and they fucking stick up for each other. They look the other way. And if you're a fucking good cop out there and you see fucking someone, do something really fucked up, well, now you're a bad cop too. And you don't say shit, it's like you're a bad cop too. But there's a whole thing built around this idea of brotherhood, and that we can't turn on each other, and if you do turn on someone,
It's
then they
no,
turn on
it's like
you.
ingratiated into
Some
like
gangster shit, son. It's gangster
I've
stuff. So I am all about that, but they're fucking the whole defund the police thing just went off the rails because of the name of it. I think it was just poor marketing,
we
honestly.
all can agree that that name caused a lot more conflict than it should have because nobody
And
cared
what
what it
ended
meant.
up happening is that some policies got implemented that wasn't maybe matching what they were asking for, what these protests were about, so there was some adverse reactions from this. So like,
Yes,
I'm not trying to sit here and fucking
but
harp
like
on that,
I would
but
argue that in 98% of places it went a different way than like the 2% of places it went really fucking sour.
okay. But these people are still suffering. These are still people who are
Yeah,
out there
but
suffering now. And like, what? How do we figure this out? And I know it's going to take time, and I understand that. But it's like this solution obviously wasn't the way, that wasn't working. And so how do we go back at it in a better way that gets the point across in a way that we can all get
well,
behind,
my
that we all can see.
conversations like this and platforms like ours, here's something I saw in hip hop media, and I can't comment on everything, but I can absolutely comment on what I've seen. People will be like, "What do you think the problem with the local scene is?" I'm sure it happens in rock media because
Oh yeah.
everybody's indie scene is trash. And then you start to realize that if everybody in the media is constantly going, the local scene is trash, and everybody that watches this content to see their homeboy hears that question and hears that answer, then maybe the way the media spins shit is actually the problem, and it actually goes down to the little clickbait seeking indie sources or the
And that's
profit
what the
seeking
fuck
indie
I'm trying to
sources.
say here, son.
I mean, I know you're
It,
trying to
it's
say
more
that.
it's more than just a race thing, because that is a part of it. I don't want to disqualify that. It's more than that. It's more than it's really, I think it's about like social economics. Like I seriously think it's about feeding this machine, this unchecked
But we don't live
capitalistic
with that
machine.
same. You remember that fear I was describing before, walking down the
Right.
street?
Again, I'm
I
not.
don't live with that
I'm
shit.
not.
So
I know. Again, and like I feel like you're.
it's like,
I feel like every time I start talking about socioeconomics and get away from the idea that it's all about race, that you don't think that I'm incorporating that into my thought process,
I
because
just want
again,
other
I'm
people to also
acknowledging
think about
that.
it. Actually, it's not about you. I'm saying it for the sake of if somebody just
I
catches this
know.
part of the debate, I want them to have that in the back of their mind when they hear your point too. Sometimes I'm doing that.
Yeah,
Not
that's
gonna lie.
fine. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with reiterating big points. I just don't want you to think that anytime that I start deviating away from that
Nah,
narrative, and I think that's kind of the problem, is that the narrative is only this, and it only focuses on our differences, and it only focuses on that, when we should be sort of looking out into a broader picture, because there are people who are benefiting greatly with us fighting amongst ourselves rather than fighting against them. There's a lot of people who are benefiting from this, and making real power moves right now, in the guise of whatever, in the guise of Black Lives Matter. And I'm not calling Black Lives Matter that. I'm just saying that there are people who are
you
co-opting
can
these
argue that
ideas.
the organization has sects that have done questionable things, and that is a
Bro, what it was, the one lady, the one person, I don't know if it's a lady, but the one person just bought a mansion in Topanga Canyon and shit. It's
yeah,
just like, that's
definitely
like,
some weird shit. Not gonna lie, but
right.
the organization, the philosophy, different thing. Specify
Exactly,
those two
but
things,
that's
you
what I'm
good.
saying. These philosophies are getting co-opted and taken over and amplified by bad actors, and mostly these bad actors are arms of the fucking, are arms of the governmental institutions, arms of the fucking, of the media institutions, and of the technology institutions, and that's what I'm talking about. And like forever, it's like it's always been about like this idea of not having the resources against who has all the
So
resources,
how
and
do how do you propose that we fix this then? And I mean that
alien.
like in a super sincere way. Like what would you do then? Okay, so fine. Everybody acknowledges this. Now we're at the next step, which is solutioning, right? So we can diagnose the very problem, which honestly we agree on. You do not have to convince me of anything you feel the main problem is. I do believe that a lot of shit's happening and that it is way bigger than a singular issue.
Yeah,
And I come from some poor shit. I believe it on every level you're describing.
yeah.
However,
I come
so
from shit too, man. I come
what
from
do
a
we
gutter.
what do we do to like fix it then at that point? So we're in this position. You and I have media platforms. What do we do to fix it? So that's where the next question comes. So what's
I mean,
Mike's ideas on that?
my defense always is like, the
Not
fact that I'm
defense, your
talking about it.
ideas.
Well, but like when you, because some of these ideas are incendiary to some, and like and it does shut down a lot of people's, it shuts down the conversation for a lot of people. I do have to sort of say, it's like the fact that I do have to sort of defend these ideas, because, well, obviously, these ideas get people riled up. So I don't mind defending these ideas, and I don't mind talking about it. And I think the bigger thing is just talking about it and making it normal to talk about these things, and not make it, Pizza James, what's up, baby? It's good to see you. Yeah, we're in it, baby. But I think that we're talking. Shit, I forgot what Pizza Jams. What's up? I
Nah,
lost
here
my little thing. What were we talking about? Get me going again. You gotta rev the engine.
you're kind of making sure that the arguments include all the details and that
Ah,
it's a complete picture where everybody is able to communicate in a way where
right.
everybody's
I
kind of taken more
I think
seriously.
talking about it, and talking about it, and sincere, honest, and earnest talking about these issues is how we sort of move past them. But the way that we're polarized, and the way that it's become so profitable to be polarizing in a capitalistic society, it's become very profitable for this kind of polarization. So how do you get something that's making people a lot of money? How do you get it to bring it back to the issues at hand? And that I don't know, because
Well, I know
money.
my honest answer to you, my guy. We're literally doing it.
Yeah, and
You and I, right
that's what I
now.
was. That's the whole thing. I was like fucking talking about it, and then other than that, it's like
But
talking about
like,
it, or
I
aliens.
have like,
Aliens could unite us.
I mean, like, I do other things personally. But I can't speak for how other people want to approach it. But I started to identify benefits of my privilege in my life. As an example, when it comes down to music scenes, not many people have the kind of corporate and political training to deal with white collar fuckers as I do. Maybe with that, I can go and do two things. I can educate people because I have gain skills that let me learn very fast on certain areas of life where people don't. Like, I'm the Twitch plug. So I just wrote a guide today because I just wrote this guide. 1,400 words, how to get started on Twitch if you need it and you're a rapper in the city. Holla. Done. Why? Because that gives the education and empowers other people. It takes my position of privilege. And this is a lot inspired by gentrification, believe it or not. I am both from my neighborhood and actively gentrifying my neighborhood. And it's a really weird feeling because I'm both from my neighborhood and because of what I did with my life, actively gentrifying it, raising the cost of everything. So it's like I started thinking about it. And that got me realizing that the main difference between a lot of people is that talking about it is like step one. But like we all kind of stop there, and step two is the give back part. And people are like, yo, shout out for the host, Pizza Jams. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, to me, it's really important to, Montreal's never going to pay for an interview. Other people in the future, I can't promise that it's free forever for everyone. Montreal is never going to pay for an interview. The rest of my life is going to be dedicated to representing my people, English, Montreal, hip hop, the music scene, just my people, you know, and using all of the privilege and position and toolkits that were given to me based on luck, dude. Who the fuck gets paid to go to Pakistan? That's some luck shit.
That's tight.
So, like, you get those experiences and you have two choices now. You can hoard it or you can share it. And my answer to the question of what do we do is to share that shit. Except that knowledge is quite like wealth. And many of us have knowledge that we hoard and we don't, like, share it. But if we focus on community knowledge sharing efforts and all we ever do is give knowledge out, then the overall consciousness of the people elevates beyond what a news source can keep up with, because they're pretty fucking trash at this shit right now and their power is diminishing. But it's like, you just got to let people know that they can do it too. You also have to recognize, and this happened, I had a moment where I accidentally said some racist shit and the guy called me on it. And he said to me, you have to understand that the black men of America have been beaten to the point where many of them have a level of low self-esteem that you can never understand. And you have to be more cognizant and conscious of your words, because you don't know the level of beating the person you're talking to is taken. And as we know in this life, that could be literally literal.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, eh? So it's like, that's why we're like, you know, knowledge sharing. That guy shared that knowledge with me. He didn't have to. But because he did, I can spare other people from maybe having to have that conversation, because trust, it doesn't cause me the same level of pain to have that conversation that had him. And I think a little bit part of the solution is that the white folk kind of got to start talking more to white folk about the real shit, and like the parents, and you hear grandma make a racist joke, check grandma's privilege.